Ole'Pops here. I told y'all that me and Mini-Me was going to go out today and do a part 2 for the Dyer Cemetery video, and I think we are. But I'm going to do a little bit of explaining for you. And I'm going to start right here. I know it don't look like a whole lot to you, but you see that right there? Right there? That's my good knee. Let me back up a little bit so I can focus. See that right there? God, I can't tell you how much it hurts. I know it don't look like a whole lot. Today's the 29th. All this happened on the 24th. All this right here was puffed out, just really swollen up. It's gone down now. But if you'll notice, there's a scar from here all the way up to here. When they did this reconstruction, there's also a scar from here to here. It goes down and across. When they did this reconstruction, they replaced 4 inches of this femur bone. Now when I fell, you can see this spot right here. I fell on this kneecap and on the side of this knee. Now, I know you're thinking, well, so what? You're an old man, you fell. Well, let me pull this brace back up here, because I've had to keep a compression brace on it ever since. Let me pull it back up. The first 2 days, I couldn't walk. After that, it's been pretty touch and go. I'm getting around a little better now. I mean, well enough to where I could get out yesterday and stand, at least, well enough to shoot a video for you. I'm walking with a cane, but on the 17th, we went to Dyer Cemetery. And we did a video about the little sisters out there that was hung. And talked about the oak tree that was cut down for them. And I don't know if you've seen I know you hadn't. You ain't seen my yard. We got 2 big silver maples in the back. We got a big old pine tree in the back. We got Bradford pears all over the neighborhood. But we ain't got an oak tree within 5 miles of us big enough to produce a cluster of acorns. Not within 5 miles. I can understand squirrels carrying acorns. I understand it. I know they gather them and I know they carry them. But there's a cluster of 8 caps. I found that in my front yard. I kind of laughed it off. The very next morning, I went out there and I found that in my front yard. It's a cluster of 8 caps. And there ain't a tree within 5 miles of me big enough to produce an acorn, much less a cluster of 5 caps. Now, you know, it takes a bigger oak tree to produce a cluster of 8 caps than it does to produce an acorn. You know, a 20-foot, 30-foot oak tree will produce an acorn. But it takes a bigger tree than that to produce a cluster of 8 caps. Or actually 8 caps means 8 acorns. It just means that the squirrel's got the acorn and all that's left is the caps. The very next morning, it means the 18th, the 19th, and then the 20th, I went out there and laying in my front yard again was this one. A cluster of 8 caps. Only this time than 2 stems, but it's a cluster of 8 caps. Now, I made a joke just as soon as I found it. I thought to myself, I said, well, now there, I found the first one. I said, it's kind of odd. I found the second one. And I thought to myself, well, now there's 2. If I find another one tomorrow, it'd be one for each one of them sisters that was hung in that oak tree they cut down. Then I went out there that 3rd morning and I found that 3rd one. I thought to myself and I said, now that's freaking spooky. Then I went out there the 4th morning and I found this, a cluster of 3. One for each sister. And then that little empty one right there, but laying off to the side, like it done been broke off, was a full acorn. But it was laying right there with them. Well, I gathered all of it up a little at a time. Now, we're talking about the 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st. Okay? Now, I waited the 24th. Walked out there that morning on the 24th and fell off my porch. Took a fall. Didn't do anything. Just waited. Didn't do a damn thing. Walked out on my front porch and fell off my porch. Is that a message? Well, I've been doing me some research. I'm going to stop this right here. I'm going to go outside and I'm going to tell you what I found. Then I think me and Mini-Me is got a little routine, or a little ritual we're gonna do since Ole'Pops is feeling a little bit better. We're since something's felt well enough to leave me these little gifts here, Ole'Pops is gonna go plant an oak tree. Not far southeast from Washington, D.C. there is a quaint old town in South Maryland called Leonard Town. It's the seat of St. Mary's County and was founded in the late 17th century. When the English settled there in the 1600s, they brought their superstitions with them. Soon there were tales of witches, one in particular called Dyer, among the fearful colonists. In the 1600s, before Leonard Town had acquired its official name, it was home to a small group of settlers. On the outskirts of the town lived Ma Dyer in a makeshift hut that she built herself. Ma was quite a lady. She was quiet. Some say she was rather beautiful. She lived by herself in a small cabin in the woods. The cabin by today's standards was considered a hut. It kept her warm in the winter. And it was her home. Ma Dyer's hut sat by a creek just outside of Leonard Town. Although we don't know if Ma considered herself to be a witch, she did things that made the colonists wonder. She foraged for plants, and she practiced medicinal healing with what she would gather. And she used in her incantations, she would beg for alms. Some say she was an old hag, but like I said, others said that she was very polite and very beautiful for her age. It didn't help that Ma was very tall, and she towered over most of the colonists. As was common in those days, whenever the local settlers would experience a bad crop or weather, they blamed the supernatural, either God or the devil. In recent cases, there were whispers in the town that became accusations. The old witch had something to do with it. Old Moll Dyer. Some would say Moll Dyer had cursed the colony, and by 1697 it had become an unusually cold winter. The town folks began to whisper how that they could get rid of old Moll Dyer once and for all. She was a poor woman and she lived alone. So they derived a plan where they would go set fire to her hut, her cabin. No trial, no jury. They had it figured out. Many people said that she was angry and would get her revenge with hexes and curses. So they had plans to eradicate her from the town. They marched on old Moll's house one cold winter night, and they torched it up. Feeling that they had killed her successfully, they left the scene, but she escaped and ran into the woods. It being especially cold that night, she did not escape altogether, and she suffered greatly and froze to death that night on a rock sitting by the creek. Her body was found a few days later, frozen in an unusual position. She was kneeling on a rock. One hand placed on the rock between her feet, between her knees. The other one extended into the air as if she was praying. But because she had been accused of being a witch, the townspeople said that she was cursing them with death. They believed that she would haunt them forever. But what has this got to do with Rutherford County or Tennessee? Well, what has this got to do with our story? How does it relate? There is no documented evidence of Moll Dyer's birth, her life, or her death in St. Mary's County. In Leonardtown, Maryland. No existence. There is documentation, however, of a woman named Mary Dyer that lived close to Leonardtown. there is proof that Ma was a nickname for Mary at that time. And the story says her spirit haunts the land, looking for the men that forced her from her home. The land near her cabin is said to be cursed, never again to grow good crops, and an unusual number of lightning strikes have been recorded there. A white dog is mentioned to cause accidents on Dyer Road. In 1994, a historian hired by a major home renovation corporation retail chain conducted a series of interviews with local residents, local historians, and several people from families that have lived in the county since the 1600s. According to these interviews, Ma Dyer is said to have come from Virginia. She is said to have been a dyer by marriage. She may have been a woman of disappointment and disappointed love, and the mother of 2 sons. 2 people said they had heard the name of Maudie Dyer, and she was said to be an Appalachian Cherokee maiden, abandoned by her white lover after the birth of her children. The date of her death varied from the 1600s to the early 1700s. Several people said they thought Molly Dyer was converted to Catholicism and had come from somewhere south of Kentucky. And because she had converted to Catholicism, she made her way to Maryland because it was more religiously tolerant of Catholics than the southern colonies south of Kentucky. After doing some research, I found evidence of the Dyers, the Rathers, who later became the Leathers, or at least some of them did, and the McCords from Virginia, settling in Middle Tennessee. And around the North and Middle Tennessee area in the mid-1700s. The story started growing from there. And speaking with a friend of mine whom I have known for more than 50 years, my imagination started getting the best of me. One woman I have known all my life actually claimed to be a descendant of Molly Dyer's oldest son. Her maiden name was McCord, and I couldn't begin to describe this woman to you if I tried. You just wouldn't believe me. Her looks, her demeanor, her ways. It should also be noted that some people believe that the story of Molly Dyer, or Moll Dyer, partly inspired the being and the energy of the Blair Witch Project. Now, the Oak and the Acorn Project that Gracie and I have planned. The oak has always been a symbol of inner strength and integrity. As we reconnect to our divine nature, this is a time to revisit our roots so that we can heal old wounds and stand strong in our truth. Oak trees can live to be 1,000 years old. In 2000 BC, the oaks of Dodona of Empress Greece were known as the oracle that offered wisdom as the sound of the wind rustled through their leaves. This sacred grove of oaks was associated with the great Earth Mother, Gaia, and Asherah. By 800 BC, the oaks of Dodona were identified as gods. In 300 BC, the king of Epirus claimed the oaks of Dodona as his religious center, his church. He declared it to be the earthly dwelling of Zeus. Oak trees soon became symbols of patriarchal rule. Ironically, the Roman Church destroyed the oaks of Dodona in about 380 for their pagan roots. The Sumerian name for the Lord of the Wind was Enlil, who later became known as El, or Elan, or Elah, which is the Hebrew word meaning oak. When the Bible was translated from Latin to German, the original name of El, or Elohim, or Elan, Adonai, Yahweh, etc., were reduced to a single word, God. The word God was inspired by the Germanic word Gu, G-H-U-E, or Guto, and Gudan, meaning to evoke the sound of the wind in the trees. This occurred because the Germanic people worshipped trees as divine beings. They felt that the wind blowing through the tree's branches was its voice. The spirit of the oak is held within our collective memories. It asks us to listen to the sound of the wind as we reconnect to the divine nature of our own voice. Connect with the energy of the words by listening with an open heart. It signals a time of stepping into the power with honesty and integrity. By owning our truth and our own voice, we will gain a clearer sense of what we need to accomplish and how. By choosing our thoughts wisely, we can choose our words wisely and stand strong, yet remain open in the face of adversity. And in the face of death, Gracie and I are going to plant an oak tree so that in the place of remorse, it can lend focus to what others can do to work together for the common good. The task: be rigid, be hard, and be strong. Listen to the sound of the voice within, and let there be balance. Ole'Pops here, and we're back here at the Dyer Cemetery. Me and Mini-Me. Just thought I'd let y'all know. Here's that gate that's supposed to be hard to open. You want to open it this time? You want me to do it? She's never been. It's supposed to be hard to open. Sometimes. And make sure you shut it back. Sometimes.
I want to know what part of that was hard.
Well, sometimes it gets a little difficult to open. And it gets a little difficult, and then all of a sudden it'll slam itself open, they say.
I don't know how to latch it back. I can't.
I think last time I had to do it, pull it too. Here, run this chain back around and stick it back through to me.
Yeah, I did that. Okay.
Now, we've come here to make amends, I guess you could say. For a travesty, for a wrong that was done to 3 young ladies. I don't know if we can make amends for the wrong that was done to them. We can't make up for it. But their tree was cut down. The tree that hung them was cut down, and I don't know if we can make up for that. I don't know if planting that tree back is going to do any good. I don't know if the caretaker will see it coming up and let it grow back. I just know that the weirdness that's been happening to me since I've been here, and finding the acorns and whatnot has just been kind of odd and all. And I also think it's odd what all I found regarding the rock from Mo. And then there always being a rock on that stump right there, which was supposed to be that tree. I don't know. It just, there's too many coincidences. How you feel? What do you feel? You don't feel anything?
I feel peace.
Do you?
Yeah. Which is weird because I don't in any other cemetery.
Well, there wasn't peace the other day.
I feel like I could lay down and take a nap.
Really?
Yeah.
It didn't feel that way the other day. It feels that way now. All right. I got me a jar here, and in this jar, I had me. Well, hey, if that's what you want to do, go ahead and look at it. You know how to get through the gate and lock it back. In this jar, I had me some ashes, and I got some dirt from right there in between them two cedar trees. Right there. Now Gracie said there was some kind of strange feeling about that spot in between them two cedar trees, but I don't know. I kind of felt it too, and I'm mixing the dirt with the ashes. And here's that acorn right here. Well, if you can see it right there. And right there's that rock on that stump. And I looked down inside that hole a minute ago, and there's nothing in it. It seems like it's all rotted out. The thing about it is it's rotted all the way to the ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this acorn inside that stump. And I'm going to dump these ashes and mud, dirt on top of it. They're good rich ashes. And it looks like some good dirt. It's a good rotten stump. It's good and rich. The dirt under it's good and rich. I'm going to do that now. I hate to move that rock. But I'm going to put that rock back where I got it. Doesn't it feel that way? I'm Ole'Pops, and on behalf of me and many me, we've done what we came out here to do. And to you three sisters, I hope you're satisfied. I mean you no disrespect. I shake you off and I leave you here. Yes, I shake you off and I leave you here. And I mean you no disrespect. I shake you off and I leave you here. And I mean you no disrespect.